famous rabbis of yesteryear. We're continuing the great rabbis that actually came from Iran. I'm going to speak about a famous rabbi, Rav Natan Eli Yehoshua, Zecher Tzadik Debracha. Now, I'm not too sure the exact date when he was born, but I believe he was born in a great family that actually came from Hamadan originally in Iran. Now, I think it's reported over that, it was just reading here from the 7dorim.com website, which gives excellent biographies of great rabbis and other, let's say, Iranian figures in of itself and various other information. I think less than 20 months after he was born, his mother, having born 4 children, had passed away sadly over here, and his father, Elio Khodadad, I believe what was full name, was a well-known merchant in Hamadan, and not long would get married again and to care for the children. That's what's reported over here from the 7dorim website. Now, he would complete his elementary and secondary education. Once again, he would, just like many other rabbis at that point in time, he would actually learn in the Alliance Israelite Universal Schools and will finish his high school education. I believe it was at the Pahlavi High School in Hamadan. He would over there, and after he would receive a diploma, he would go to Israel for further studies and enroll, I think, at the Technion and Israel Institute of Technology, where he would actually study architectural engineering also, respectively. Now, I think it was about a year after that, Rav Natan would have to leave the college, let's say, due to let's say, great successes and achievements, but I think because of finances at that point in time, and he would go on a journey to Jerusalem in search of possibly more working opportunities over there. He would actually enroll in the famous Hebrew University of Jerusalem to continue his education and studies. And this time, I think he would actually see also Talmud and Torah, go very much inside the Torah field in of itself. So I think less than 2 years later, let's say, obviously at that point in time, it was a very turbulent point in the whole world, and there was the Second World War would erupt, let's just say, in Europe. Well, I think Israel was under, let's say, the jurisdiction of the British monarchy. Rabbi Yehoshua Natan Eli worked, I think, in an office belonging to the British as a translator, if I'm not mistaken, and will remain employed in this position until the end of the war. He would leave university. He spent his free time studying various different Torah textual information itself, Talmud, Shulchan Aruch, and so on and so forth, as he was really getting imbued in it. And I think after the Second World War, Rav Natan Eli was invited by the late Rav Levi, the founder of the Otzah HaTorah, to collaborate in this great institution in Iran, teaching, let's just say, Hebrew religious Torah inside the Iranian community. Now, we're going to speak about Otzah HaTorah in a few minutes, and Rav Halevi also, because he was very, very key rabbi, let's just say, in Iran in of itself. We're just going to take a short 1-minute break, and then we will get back to just this presentation in Persian Rabbi. So please, we'll be back in 2 minutes, and wait. Thanks. Hi, shalom everyone. Thanks for being patient over here as we're exploring the history with regards to a famous Persian rabbi of yesteryear who happened to be speaking about Rabbi Natan Eli or Rabbi Natan Eli Yehoshua. So he would actually go join the Otzar HaTorah network over there thanks to Rabbi Isaac Meir Levi, if I'm not mistaken, who was a famous rabbi. He was actually a Polish rabbi, I think from Krakow, if I'm not mistaken. And I think he was actually born in the year 1905. He was actually from one of the largest, let's say, cities of Poland. And he was famous at that point in time for coming to Iran and starting this school network in itself, and very, very much so would really make his mark over there and in the Jewish community of Iran. And I think there was obviously, because there was Alliance Israelite Universal, he felt that there should be a stronger, let's say, yeshiva-orientated school. So he would very much be part of it. We will hopefully record a video with regards to the history of him in of itself. I think it's very, very important. And he had associations also with other great characters, in Shlomo Cohen Zedek, if I'm not mistaken, who would be his vice president at that point in time. And very, very interesting. He would actually really form this, let's say, this Torah structure in of itself, of the Otzar HaTorah group. I think there'll be schools in Shiraz and so on and so forth, and really, really excel in of itself, and was a great religious figure, let's just say, and had great knowledge in Kabbalah, and was fluent, I think, in Hebrew, Yiddish, Russian, English, and Persian, if I'm not mistaken, and would really do huge amounts, let's just say, himself. And this was more religious-orientated school. Okay, so after returning to his homeland, I think Rabbi Yehoshua Natan Eli, after he was in Israel, would work with a cultural group called the Ganjeh Danesh. And I think in 1947, he, along with someone named Aryeh Peyik, would work on behalf of Rav Levi, and they were given the responsibility of arranging teacher training seminars and teaching at Tehran's yeshiva. This initiative, let's say, aimed to combat, let's say, shortages of Hebrew teachers in the Jewish schools across Iran at that point in time, because there was possibly at that stage in time, let's say, a lacking within regards to Jewish educational schools and stuff like that, and they needed teachers. I think in 1948, Rabbi Yehoshua Natan Eli would get married to someone named Maleke, if I'm not mistaken. She was from the Mishpachat Hayim. And I think they would have 3 sons and 1 daughter, if I'm not mistaken, and they would very much follow their father's footsteps. Very interesting enough, he would go to Shiraz only about 6 months after he got married, where he would teach in the Ganjeh Danish schools for a period of 12 years. Now, Rabbi Yehoshua Natan Eli had, let's say, a great command in Hebrew, Persian, French, and English, and would pursue, let's say, the studies, great Torah in of itself. He would become proficient also in other languages, I think in Latin and German, to understand Latin, let's say, and ancient translations of the Torah, if I'm not mistaken. He would devote 35 years of his life teaching Hebrew and religious law in Jewish schools in Iran, playing a huge role as a spiritual figure, let's just say, in the Otzar HaTorah, and really advance Jewish knowledge in himself, disseminating Torah laws and various different segments inside the community, if I'm not mistaken. So very, very interesting. We're going to speak a bit more about Rav Levi. He was the founder of Otzar HaTorah. He would pass away, sadly, after a heart attack. And soon after, I think, Solomon or Shlomo Cohen Zedek would pass away due to an illness. So obviously there was a void at that point in time. So Otzar HaTorah, the global institution, would actually install Dr. Norman Paris as head of Tehran's Otzar HaTorah, and would appoint Rabbi Natan Eli as his secretary, a very prominent position over there. And let's say Norman Paris was eventually succeeded by Rob Horowitz, and followed by Israel Schiff, if I'm not mistaken, and Professor Yosef Shochat Terekov. And very interesting. In the 18 years that Rabbi Yehoshua Natan Eli was the secretary of Otzar HaTorah, he was a great, great scholar, let's just say. He fulfilled educational, religious duties that had been entrusted upon him in of itself. So very, very prestigious. We're going to take another short break at the moment. I'll be back in another minute, friends. Thanks everyone for the patience over here as we're exploring a few of the highlights of a famous rabbi from Iran. His name was Rabbi Natan Eli Yehoshua. Over here in this special edition, we're talking all about the various different heads of Otzar Torah during his time period in itself. And the transitional time period, he was very, very busy within regards to the education sphere in of itself. We're going to see that obviously there was the establishment of the Islamic Republic in Iran in 1980. Now, Rabbi Yehoshua Natan Levi would leave Iran at that point in time and go to Israel along with his family, just like many other people. After a year he would spend in Israel, he would emigrate to Los Angeles at the invitation, I think, of various relatives of his. In Los Angeles, I think at that point in time he'd be retired. He would continue to dedicate most of his time, let's say, giving education to the youth, very much like he did in Iran in of itself. He was in very, very good stead in of itself. Moreover, I think, let's just say, he would do great productive partnerships, helping develop synagogues, various cultural education hubs in Los Angeles and California. As a result, during the inauguration of, let's say, great educational centers, I think especially in the Wilshire region, I think it was in 1992, they proudly would make a synagogue and a school in his name. It was called Natan Eli. And I think come with the year 1994, another synagogue in California, in Los Angeles, would have the name Natan Eli, if I'm not mistaken. This would actually be followed by a school in 1998. Let's just say there'll be that acknowledgement of his great substantial cultural contributions. And this recognition itself will particularly be significant within Otzar Torah community, obviously, where he was a great leader for many, many years. Another one of his, let's say, great activities in Jewish sphere was translation and editing of various Torah religious texts. He would undertake re-editing of previous religious writings. He translated books, for example, Haggadah, Passover, on the Gemara itself, and he had written about various memoirs of his, daily ones, and various important events that would happen in his life since year 1937, when he was 18 years of age. So seemingly he was born possibly around the year 1919. I'll have to double check that if I'm not mistaken. Yeah, so very interesting. His research writings obviously became a collection, I think, of 10 thick handwritten books. It was called Notes of 70 Years of Cultural Activities of Rabbi Natan Eli, which I think was kept actually by his daughter. Now, I believe he passed away on December the 24th in the year 2005. He was 89 years of age when he passed away. I think he suffered from illness also. And he was laid to rest, I think, in an area called Ozar in Israel. And let's just explore some of his works, including the biography of the prophets and Nevi'im, that's parts of the Tanakh also respectively, the treasure of jewels, a Talmudic treasure, that's another one, Gemara treasure, marital life and happiness. I think that was a translation he did, and the Haggadah Shel Pesach, Passover liturgy in of itself. So it was really, really the man of Otzar HaTorah in of itself. And we did a video with regards to the history of Otzar HaTorah, let's just say the educational network in of itself of schools of a previous time period, and very much I would recommend everyone to look over at that video. But he was a very famous rabbi of his time, especially being from Iran. Definitely one of the standout educators without doubt in Jewish history. I think there are various writings available within regards to him to learn more about him in of itself. So very, very interesting. I wanted to speak about Otzar HaTorah for a minute over here, this Torah educational network, let's just say, because we did speak about it, the Otzar HaTorah, and obviously it would actually get formed, let's just say, in the year 1946. So that's very, very interesting. So yeah, much can be said within regards to it, Otzar HaTorah. That we had a lot of information. I think we did record a video just before, I think it was actually before Shavuot time, if I'm not mistaken. So that's very interesting enough. So that's something that we have to point out. I think this network, let's just say, was actually created, I think, possibly in the year 1945 to provide Orthodox Jewish education. I think it was really to help set schools up, mandate Palestine at the point in time, but obviously it will develop into various different countries. I think come 1961, it would actually expand to France even, and especially where Sephardi communities were growing rapidly, obviously thanks to the immigration of Jews, let's say from North Africa, and they would go to various places in France, Paris, Toulouse, Marseille, everywhere else, and I think it was financed by the American Jewish Joint Distribution Committee would very much help. So it was actually someone named Isaac Shalom, who we also did record a video about. He was Syrian born, person from New York City, together with Joseph Sharma of Jerusalem and Ezra Tabul of Buenos Aires, will work together, let's just say, obviously seeing this spiritual decline and impoverishment from an intellectual point of view, and will really try and, let's say, garner this up in of itself. I think it will first operate in Mandate, Palestine, opening 29 schools over there. After the establishment of the State of Israel, Otzah Torah would cease its operations in Israel and will develop schools then in various other places all across the world, especially in Aleppo, Damascus, and various other places. Also, they would establish schools in Tripoli, in Libya, before the Jewish population would largely emigrate to Israel in 1950. I think even in current day, it runs in Morocco. Now, in France, I think especially with their mass emigration from North African countries to France in the late 20th century, let's just say, they would open schools in Lyon, I think as early as 1961, and I think schools in Créteil, in Sarcelles, let's just say in itself, in Antony, Toulouse, Marseille, these different places, let's just say they would do it. I think they would help within regards to building mikvaot there, synagogue, day camps, and so on and so forth. That's something that we very much have to point out about there. So that's a very interesting. A lot of information we can actually give over within regards to Otzah HaTorah. That's something very much we have to point out over here, friends. So we're going to take another short minute break before we just conclude this presentation over here. So just in the meantime, while all of you are actually watching live and hearing all this information, yeah, just please don't forget to check out the community. We've got a beautiful community over here with so many different great videos, and yeah, and so on and so forth, really to inspire our next generation of fantastic people just like yourselves. So just browse through. In the meantime, we're going to take a short 1 minute break, and then we will be back. So have this patience over here, friends, and we will conclude the video in a minute. Okay, shalom everyone. Thanks for being patient over here as we're exploring today a few of the highlights with regards to a very famous rabbi from Iran, a famous educator, rabbi that would really, let's say, imprint himself at a very great, let's say, level in of itself, all over Iran and even in Israel, let's just say very much so. And so a rabbi that we've spoken about here on various occasions before, that's something that we very much have to point out. And we're taking this, let's just say, these notes from the famous website of Sheva Dorim, let's just say, and it's a website that I recommend everyone to look at in of itself. So how important is, let's just say, to actually educate ourselves with regards to previous rabbis of previous years in of itself. So we happen to be speaking about a great rabbi over here. Now, friends, anyone, if you haven't subscribed yet to our community, please join over here. We have got recorded about 1,450 biography videos really of great rabbis that were really making their, let's say, imprints in yesteryear in of itself. So that's something very much I have to point out over here from the outset. And obviously, speaking about Persian Rabbanim itself is very dear to me, because obviously I came from a great Persian origin in of itself previously. Yeah, so and I recommend everyone to watch over that video we did record over within regards to the Otzah HaTorah educational network, which we've done on this channel over here. So I'd recommend everyone to look at that and just educate, especially for the next generation, how important it is to do. They speak about many other great rabbis that actually came from Iran, not just Rabbi Natan Eli Yehosha. They speak about, let's say, religious figures, Jewish nobility. For example, some of the religious figures they include is Rabbi Uriel Davidi, Rabbi Yedidia Shofet, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Orshraga, Mola Orshraga, Rabbi Yosef Chaim Hamadani Kohen, Rabbi Morad Aghalo, Rabbi Yunus Hamami, Rabbi Yedidia Azar Ahyan, and various other great rabbis in of itself. So how important it is to, let's just say, educate our next generation and so on and so forth. And very interesting. So that has to be pointed out. So friends, everyone, join our community over here. If you haven't subscribed yet, please subscribe. At the moment, we are nearing a staggering 9,000 subscribers, which is a phenomenal achievement over here. May we, Bezrat Hashem, go from strength to strength and, improve, let's just say, and excel, and so much so and so forth. If you descend from any of the rabbis that we happen to be speaking about today or what we've spoken about so far, please don't hesitate and send me an email. I would really appreciate, let's just say, if you could give more information just in regards to your families and rabbinic structure, let's just say, in of itself, and so on and so forth. So I really appreciate it over here. So that's very interesting. And we've got a lot of great content coming up over here in the coming days at the moment. That's something I'll very much have to point out to all of you. And if you haven't watch yet our weekly Torah portion video, which we do every single week, please don't forget to check that out also, because we did record that, I believe, just only a few days ago. So that's very interesting, because this week's show we are going into is going to be Shabbat, Parshat Mishpatim, as we culminate the time period of Shovavim. So we did a very special, let's say, few words of Torah within regards to that, and that was only, I believe, a couple of days ago, if I'm not mistaken, when we actually recorded that video in of itself. So thanks very much, everyone, for watching. Take care and have a great day. Thank you.